listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by. On the morning shift.
Anything
could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Glad to be here with you. Thankful that you're here with us. We have a great show planned for you today. It's not any different than usual. News kind of makes itself, which is kind of neat in some ways. It makes for an element of doing a show like this, I guess, if you want to talk about easier than if you have to come up with all the content on your own. But again, it's your show where you get to share your opinion about the news and your views on the news, and that's why we're here. That's why we started this whole thing. It's because it's for us to try and understand what's going on around us. And so lately, we've been sharing a little bit about the aerosol that's in our skies through the military jets that fly over us, or at least it's commissioned through the military, through our tax dollars. And it's all in an effort to dim the sun to help with the effects of supposed climate change. And no one really understands it or knows it other than a few individuals in our world. And we want to make sense of that. That was why we drive to work and we look up and we see all these straight lines in the sky, and then later on it's cloudy and raining and the weather's funky. So anyways, just wondering what we're breathing in, that's all, one of those things. And so looks like we're hopefully the Facebook feed isn't hopefully it's coming through. I'm on a new computer here trying to monitor on my new monitor, and it looks like it's freezing up a little bit, but that could just be because it's just warming up. But anyways, good morning to y'all. We have a special weather alert that we want to get into right off the hop, where it's going to be pretty ugly weather expected to move into the Sudbury area. And there's a weather statement from Environment Canada. We'll get to that. We have a little bit of a sports update. The Five are in action tonight. The Wolves are in action tomorrow night. Maybe we'll continue after local headlines with a little bit of our deep dive into that whole idea of what's going on in our skies and why is it going on, and that until we get through that whole thing and try and make more sense of it, and maybe then start talking about our local ability to do anything about anything, and how much pressure or how much influence is there from global points of view or global agendas to influence local councils and local politics. And that's going to be something that's it needs to be looked at. So that's going to be your show for the day. And we're live on Facebook.com/Sudbury News, YouTube.com/Sudbury News. So make sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow, and all that stuff, and all of our other social medias as well. We really appreciate that for whatever it's worth. It gets the word out, and it gets our conversation more broad. And the more broad the conversation and the more diverse of points of view that we're able to add to the conversation, the more everyone can learn. And with that, let's dive right into our local weather, brought to you by SudburyWeather.ca. We'll be back with a great show right after this. And like we mentioned, there is a special weather statement issued from Environment Canada, and it goes something like this. Greater Sudbury and vicinity. Rain, thunderstorms, and wet snow possible today. The rain and thunderstorms will total, rainfall amounts will total about 10 to 25 millimeters, and local snowfall amounts 2 centimeters, giving slippery road conditions. So that's for today, and rain is expected across northeastern Ontario. Local total rainfall, as we said, is up to 25 millimeters. It's possible. Now, I'm not sure if we have already gotten it, because at about 5 o'clock this morning, I heard some thunder and quite a bit of rain was coming down quite heavily. And then I looked out this morning, there was some snow on my vehicle. So I'm not sure if we've already received what they're talking about, and we kind of we missed it, or it missed us, or we dodged a bullet. Not sure, but they're saying rain may become mixed with snow, or change between rain and snow this morning. And like we said, 2 centimeters possible. So I'm hoping that we basically dodged the bullet, and we've already gotten it, and we can just move on with our day. And currently it is 3 degrees, light rain showers. And today, periods of rain mixed with snow, like they said. There's a risk of thunderstorm early this morning with the 10 to 25 millimeters of rain. Snowfall 2 centimeters possible over northern sections. And wind will be up to 40 kilometers per hour. Light later this afternoon. And the high today will be +4. Tonight, clear. Wind up to 15 kilometers an hour, so very mild wind. Low of -5, and the wind chill is -10 overnight. And then Wednesday, tomorrow, sunny. And wind will be gusting up to 40 kilometers an hour. High of +4. Wind chill -12 in the morning. So it looks like it's going to be a mild day and sunny tomorrow. We hope. And then mix of sun and cloud on Thursday, high of 5. Cloudy on Friday, high of 7. +1 on Saturday with periods of rain or snow. And then a chance of flurries, 40% chance on Sunday. -1 is your high. And +2 on Monday next week, mix of sun and cloud. So out of the next 6 days, we only have 1 day with negative temperatures, and it's only -1. And so that brings us all the way to March 11th in terms of the weather forecast. And we're pretty much in the pluses other than that 1 day, and -1 is the high. So interesting winter we're having this winter. Look at your satellite, as you can see, where that clearing is coming over Thunder Bay all the way to Manitoba there. Minnesota, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, making its way towards us. And so we should enjoy a nice, mild, sunny day tomorrow. So that's good news, especially if you're traveling. And that's your Sudbury weather, brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. We will be back with a little sports update, news headlines, and much, much more right after this. And Sudbury Sports, brought to you by sudburysports.ca. Your Sudbury 5 are in action tonight against the the London Lightning. That's Tuesday, March the 5th, and that is today. So they are facing the London Lightning tonight, and they're not in action again until March 16th. So they got a good 11 days off until they go against the Derby City Distillers. So as you know, there's a couple new teams in this new league that the 5 are in. They got some interesting names. The Derby City Distillers on March the 16th. But for tonight, they're facing the London Lightning in London. And then your Sudbury Wolves are in action tomorrow night. The Sioux Greyhounds are in town. And that's going to be a great game as usual. It's their rivals, and they've been close games all season long. And then Windsor's in town as well. So there's 2 games in town, Wednesday and Friday. Sault Ste. Marie tomorrow, and then Windsor on Friday. Make sure to get your tickets at greatersudbury.ca/tickets. Go to sudburywolves.com to check out the latest on the Sudbury Wolves. And if you want to check out Sudbury 5, you go to the5.ca. And that's your Sudbury Sports, brought to you by sudburysports.ca. It's a sports news aggregator landing on our sudbury.news website, which is a local news aggregator. which aggregator means all the news comes into one page, so you don't have to go searching for it. And that's, it's our service to the news outlets of this community. And that's your Sudbury Sports. We'll be back with news headlines and your comments and maybe a bit of a deep dive into our skies as we've been doing since last Friday. And we'll be back right after this. Stay tuned. It's going to be a great show. All right, quite a few people joining us this morning. And as usual, we want to kind of check in and see how you're all doing, see who's with us. I don't know if we're experiencing a little bit of freezing, but it is what it is. Actually, we're a little low from what the amount of people that we are usually getting lately. It's low numbers. We're not on CKLU again this morning because that hack that happened with CKLU, and a hack that happened with Laurentian University, which caused us, CKLU, which is Laurentian University's campus and community radio station, but we are linked with Laurentian University, and so we use their internet, and so we are currently using a substitute computer, which doesn't make it possible for me to log in remotely and do the show for some reason. And so we're not on the radio. We're just on YouTube and Facebook Live, and then later we're on Sudbury.news and X, formerly Twitter. Afterwards, that's where the show lives on 4 platforms afterwards on demand. So if you missed the live, you can go back and check that out. Good morning, Judy. Thanks for joining us. And Peter, good morning to you as well. Okay, yes. City Hall is definitely interesting and keeps us on our toes. So good morning, Peter. We're news from the joke of a City Hall for sure. It's always interesting for sure. There's no doubt about it. Blessings from Espanola, Ontario this morning. That is Denise. Good morning, Jerome. And Sudbury News Hounds, all y'all, right? Good morning, David. Take care and stay safe. Thanks for being on, David. And Belinda, good morning. Beautiful souls. Recognize beautiful souls. Keep being genuine. Your people will find you. How wonderful that I have found a whole bunch right here. Wow. The love. Just feel the love this morning. Thanks, guys. And it's great to be a part of this. And good morning, Minik. Good morning, Sudbury, with a sunshine smiley emoji. Denise says, when it comes to spraying the skies, the Bible said that Jesus will appear in the skies. The Bible says they have to do with the Bible says. So now what the skies are covered up, but mostly to be revealed, projectile Jesus in all countries is coming. Are you ready? Oh, so you're talking about, I believe it's part of Project Bluebeam, if I'm not mistaken, where part of the aerosol of the skies is to make a screen. You know, they put different chemicals and things into the sky and it makes it more gray than blue. And so it makes a screen that you can then project things up against, right? And Project Bluebeam talks about an alien invasion. I've never heard that they were going to mimic the second coming of Christ, but it could be. It could be as well. So as long as you can project something in the hologram form, it's possible. They've done all kinds of experiments. I mean, if you look into different things like that, it's interesting what you find. So I wouldn't doubt that they would try to mimic that, but that's an interest. The first time I've heard that. Marianne, good morning, everyone from Barrie, and liked and shared as usual. Thank you very much, Marianne, for that. And Jerome and City Council are totally oblivious, according to their 311 operator, about what's going on in our skies, for sure. And most people are oblivious to that, right? And it's interesting how that is, it's almost like people not realizing there's a sun. You know, you say, hey, it's sunny today. Huh? A what? What's that? It's almost like that because you're like, hey, you notice all those lines in the skies sprayed by jets since the 1990s? And they're like, huh? What are you talking about? It's weird. Anyways, I have no idea what's up with that, what the reasoning is for people not knowing what's going on over their heads, but it's an interesting one. So, morning, Vin. Thanks for being with us. And Belinda, all levels of government are compromised. Heck yeah, I would think so. It doesn't take much it just takes, some moolah. A little bit of moolah, a little bit of prestige, a little bit of this, that, and the other, and you're hooked. So always liked and shared. Thanks, Jerome. Much appreciated. Good morning, Nancy. Blessings to you this morning with a exclamation point. Back at you, Nancy. Thank you very much. Debbie, good morning. Sunshine emoji, much appreciated. And good day all from Monique. Thanks for being with us. And Marianne, so far we have sun with clouds. Our snow is all gone. Hey, right on. That's in Barrie. So hopefully we'll get a little bit of that here. And we should be tomorrow, according to our forecast. Maurice, good morning. Sunshine emoji, much appreciated. Marianne says, we hit 19 yesterday. You got to be kidding me. Wow, that's super mild. Wow. Incredible. Debbie, and no sun, I bet. Monique says the Bible is not literal, all based on the star constellation. That's an interesting take on it, as someone who's been studying that book for probably since 1993. It's going on, 31 years now. It's definitely astrological writings in there. So what it is there's numerological writings, there's astrological aspects, there's geometrical aspects in there. And then there's just some allegories and stories to learn from that teach us good lessons. And then there's actual historical information as well. And it's all of those things mixed in. So it's a really great, probably one of the most, important studies that I've undertaken in my life, and lots to it, but definitely a lot of things going on right now that talked about. See, this is the thing. It talks about things that are happening now with this eclipse that's going to happen in April the 8th. It happens during certain constellations as well, which has been pretty much talked about in that book over 2,000 years ago, talking about something happening now. And when you put it all together, you're like, there's no way they would have known all of these things. And then they put along with just telling you what's going on in the stars, they mention certain events that should happen as well along with it, to kind of go, well, look, we know what we're talking about, because we're talking about astrological things that are going to show you when it happens, because astrological things only happen at certain times. So that gives you the time that this event I'm going to now tell you about is going to happen in correlation, in conjunction with the event and the constellation at that time. And then this is the result. So it's pretty interesting that somebody that long ago, and they say the only reason they knew these things is because they received the information from the source, if you will, right? So if you're open to it, you can kind of connect the dots and say, well, that's pretty interesting that this book has been here, unless it's changed and someone else rewrote it 10 years ago or something, which probably more than likely isn't the case. This person 2,000 years ago knew something that's going to happen like in our time. And that's pretty interesting. So, and they claim where they got the information from, and whether you believe that or not, that's where all this comes in, right? Whether someone believes it or doesn't. And the more you know about it, it's probably better anyways, because if you're speaking with someone about it who does know something about it, it's good to know more about it because then you'll have a much better conversation with other people on it. So I would just encourage anybody out there to have an in-depth look-see of that book. It's pretty incredible. And it's not even a book. It's a collection of books. And many books are mentioned in that book that aren't in that book. So it's not even complete. So there's lots of writings out there. Just want to let everyone know. Chris, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so yes, there are a lot of aspects of that, and like we say, it's interesting. And he says he's the light of the world too, right? So Monique is saying, so the word son, S-U-N, and son, S-O-N, right? So Jesus is the son of, so if you take paganistic religious aspects from, let's say, the Roman period or before, and they just kind of adopted a lot of Christian things with a lot of the other religious things at the time, and there's a lot of significance there for sure. So you are coming at a certain level of understanding there, and that's pretty cool. And there is a correlation between sun and sun. There's no doubt about it. Oh, wow, I didn't realize we'd be talking about this morning. That's interesting. Wow, we go anywhere on this show, don't we? Debbie Parsons, we did have the sun, surprisingly. But skies were sure sprayed. So yeah, just pay attention to that, everyone. Pay attention. Like I was mocked a bit from some colleagues of mine recently when I said, when we had those couple nice days, blue skies with no clouds, and I said, I doubt we're going to get that. Like, there's going to be spraying going on and it's going to be cloudy at some point, and they came back and showed me a picture of blue skies and said, someone told me you said it wouldn't happen or something, But what is that? Anyways, like what's all about? Does that mean you don't see the rest of the day? We had 2 sunny days in a whole year. Like how many sunny days did you have when you were a small child or young person? Like there's lots of sunny. I remember weeks at a time not seeing a cloud in the sky. And when a plane went by, there was just a little tail of a contrail behind it. And I remember watching the plane go and saying, wow, it's neat how the tail stays the same size the whole time, and it, as the jet flies by. And a lot of people don't seem to remember that memory for some reason. They think it's always been this way, where a jet goes by and it leaves its exhaust in the sky all day and it turns into a cloud. No, that's not what happened back then at all. I don't remember a time at all when that happened. When I was young, and I looked in the skies quite a bit as a kid. I was very inquisitive. I remember just following a jet from one end of the sky to the other, basically, just contemplating all kinds of things. The fact, how does that plane fly? What is the physics that help it? I mean, how long has flight been possible? How would someone feel thousands of years ago looking at this? All kinds of things going through my mind. But I followed that jet the whole way across the sky. And there was no exhaust trail behind it, other than a little contrail. Lots of people posting pictures, which they should continue to do. The sun to sun, they keep secrets from populations. That is true. Yes, definitely. There are people that take really good knowledge and they try and keep it to themselves and not share it with the masses. That's been going on. And they did use religion for that back in the day. Unfortunately, that is terrible that they used religion as a form of control over people. And yes, it was used for that. And not everyone was allowed to read that book. Only certain privileged people could read it, and then they would tell you what it says. And so it was pretty remarkable when the printing press came out, and it made it possible for anyone just to inquire of themselves and read it and come up with their own conclusions, which I would encourage anyone to do with anything, let alone that particular book of a collection of books. Brian, good morning. Thanks to see you here. Great to see you here. Thankful that you're on, I meant to say. Got 6-day restrictions trying to share this. What? This show? You were restricted on Facebook? Oh my goodness, that's the first time I've heard that. I've heard people not getting notifications about the show and having to whatever it is. But I've never heard somebody going into Facebook jail. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, it's not surprising. So news is taken off of Facebook due to government restrictions, Facebook. So we're going to be less and less able to just share anything, right? Unless you're just talking about your Hollywood stars or frivolous things, or I'm doing a dance, or I'm eating some kind of detergent or something, the dumbest things in the world, though they like sharing those things. But if, again, like you're talking about sharing real things, it just seems to be like that. So thanks for sharing, Brian, and nice to see you on here. And again, instead of being shut down, I wouldn't share if you're going to be restricted. But I don't want to be the cause of you not being able to get around on social media. So sad what they are doing for sure, Marianne. And Danica's good morning. Thanks for being with us. Heart emoji. And yes, Asmara Project Bluebeam. Yes, Asmara. So that's a new one for me to check out. Bluebeam I'm familiar with. Asmara, not so much. But just so anyone knows, there are some people that check in on the show every once in a while, and they might think, oh, they talk about conspiracy theories and things, or whatever, whatever that term even means. We do have government agencies that do experiments from time to time. You've heard of Manhattan Project and a billion other projects, the Men That Stare at Goats or whatever that movie was. So they had astral projection experiments where they would, foresee themselves going into secret meetings in another country just by imagining it. And lo and behold, they could do that. But the Men That Stare at Goats, part of that project was, could you stare at a goat and kill it? I think it was, just through the power of your mind. Anyways, that and millions of other experiments have happened through time, and they find interesting things that then they adopt and put into their military programs, if you will, or, secret, all secret agencies will do different things based on those experiments. And you can find those, some declassified ones. There's so many other ones that you have no clue about. None of us do. And, but it's just interesting. If you're interested in those kind of things, you can look into them. They're still there. So that's a new one. If you want to go down a rabbit hole, Asmara, Asmara. I will be looking into that at some point today. Belinda, I keep calling the Sabre Airport, and my calls were blocked. Okay. Frankenskies. That's Pat. That's true. That's what it's kind of like, right? It's fake clouds, Frankenskies, and then fake weather that gets blamed on you-know-what. Millioncharges.ca. So that's another website to check out. Million Charges. I'm not sure if that has something to do with the trying to, these different lawsuits with the federal government, but I'll check that out as well. Over all the mandates and things, I'm not sure if that's what it is about, but I will check that out. How some people cannot see spraying chemtrails or contrails is beyond me. That's Monique. And Denise says, yes, astrology was the beginning of the 12 apostles. Everything is in 12. Yes, I did the research. Very eye-opening. So that's interesting too. Now, this is going to be an interesting show. So anyone who's on this show for the first time, this isn't not a normal show. No show is normal, I guess, but we're not afraid to go anywhere. So if you ask yourself, is the 12 apostles based on astrology, or did the creator who created astrology base the 12 apostles on the original creation in the first place? Because there's a reason why it was created like that. You know what I mean? So just a question that's put out there. Like, we oftentimes look at it from one perspective, but we need to look at it from all different perspectives, right? So let's say I create a couch that has 12 cushions, and then I want to hire, this is a bad analogy. Whatever. I create 12 houses, and then I want to hire 12 cleaning people to clean those 12 houses. Now, why, so how is the correlation there? I bought 12 houses. That's why I got 12 cleaners to clean the 12 houses. So I wouldn't need 12 cleaners if I didn't have 12 houses, kind of thing. So which one came first? So anyways, terrible analogies, not my day of analogies, but hopefully you get the point. Monique, all the stories repeat themselves. Well, that's interesting. I'm sure there are some aspects of similar outcomes or similar lessons to be learned, but I find there's a lot of interesting stories that, although might be similar, have other purposes in them as well. And just an interesting side note, I've been doing my genealogy and family research, and I've been able to, in one line, go back to Adam and Eve in one of my lines. And that's even genealogists who've been around for many, many years are amazed at that, because that's not a normal thing to have happen. But we were able to find one of my lines, and as you know how genealogy works is you have two sets of grandparents. You might not know them or whatever because of different family situations, but biologically you have 4 grandparents. So there's you have 2 parents, you have 4 grandparents, and then from there you have 8 great-grandparents. Right? And then from there you have 16 great-great-grandparents. And then you have 32 great-great-great-grandparents. So it doesn't take much to go a few generations back and have a lot of great-grandparents. So one of those lines, you can imagine, by the time I get to, let's say, one of the kings in France or whatever, I have something like 500 great-grandparents. So you can then see how just that one line that goes back to Adam and Eve, we're all related in some way, shape, or form, right? But what's interesting is I was actually able to see it. It's all recorded because I was able to tap into some royalty at some time. When you do that, they keep amazing records, and then you're able to get through and see who the next person is, the next person, the next person. And so it went on. And an interesting side note too is, that Da Vinci Code book might have a little bit of merit to it from what I found in my genealogy, because I went from here to the States, to the Pilgrims coming for religious freedom, all part of, I'm related to a few of the founding fathers and things like that of the United States. That's why I guess I feel so passionately about things like that. And then that went back to Scotland, which then royalty in Scotland, that then went to royalty in England, royalty, and then France. And then from France went to Israel, and then right to Bethlehem. So it went from Jesus's family shortly after, went to France, like the Da Vinci Code says. Well, my genealogy shows that very pathway from Jesus's family into France, all the way then royalty, then England, and then Scotland, and then the United States. And then ultimately, through whatever, there's so many generations of people, and I'm just one small little wee tiny morsel of that. But anyways, was able to go back and see that with my own eyes. So things are pretty concrete with me. It's not just, hearsay, or I think this, or this is my, whatever. I try and go out and actually get facts of things. And if anyone's interested in any of that, I'm more than happy to share, because it is kind of mind-blowing. Movie documentary Zeitgeist. That's interesting. Yes. I've seen that. There's so much truth out there. It's just, why keep a closed mind? Why just stick around in your basement and not learn anything, right? So, and this show is definitely interesting today. Not something I had planned on talking about, but if you're watching, I guess it's just a laid back day of conversation about all kinds of things. And we all have different things we've studied and we bring to the table, and I learned so much from all you guys, and I hope that I bring something to the table too, of things that we can learn together. So again, right? So Brian says man-made religion causes division, and you're right. And there's so many religions out there, right? And I started a quest when I was 19 years old. I said either God is real or God's not real. And that's I basically I looked at it like it was. I was gonna, like a journalist, basically. Is God real? Kind of thing. And then from there, I basically looked at it like a journalist and tried to find facts about it. But I also had to be open-minded to different types of facts, that there's spiritual facts as well. There's things we can't explain. And if I, let's say, ask a question in my mind and the answer comes to me, and I asked it in my mind, but then an answer comes and materializes, what knew that I was asking that question to give me an answer like that? So then you have to start connecting some dots and say there's some validity to this experiment that I'm trying. I was trying an experiment. I was saying, okay, well, I'm going to talk to something, and if something's there, and if something's real, something will hear me if it is what it says or claims. So that's basically where I started, right from scratch. Even though I went to Catholic school when I was young, I totally just threw everything out, and I didn't believe a lot of it anyways. And so I was like, whatever, I'm just starting from scratch. Is God real? Is God not real? So then I was satisfied that my experiments led me to know that there was God and God was real. So that was my own. And if anyone's interested in ever finding any of the specifics out with this, I know it's not appropriate, I would even think, for the show with the audience we have right now, but I'm more than open to share any of that. And I would suggest to anyone else do the same experiment. It's really been extremely, life-changing and life-altering for me. And at the time, my hair was down to my belt buckle. I was in a band, I was on the road, and I was trying to make it as a rock star, if you will. And I wasn't making it as a rock star, and I knew it wasn't going to happen. Even though I thought I had the talent, I still do feel there's enough talent there. Anyone's got the talent if you want to pay the price and sacrifice enough to do something. It just, to me, I didn't like, the lifestyle was just too much. And anyways, so I said, there's got to be more than this. So that's when I started that experiment. And it didn't take long for my life to change very drastically just from that experiment, and in a good way. A lot of hard things happened too because of that, but at the same time, it was well worth it. And here I am today. And, so if anyone is interested, I'd have no problem sharing that with you. But again, I don't want to take up too much time. And again, right? So the idea of religion all being done by design has happened, and it was used as a form of control over people. But it doesn't take away from the fact that there still is a true or a real honest and a defined being, if you will, that's there, that also doesn't agree with all that was done with what man has created, and really doesn't agree with it. And when, let's say, if you read the teachings of Jesus, whether you believe him or not, it goes into what I was saying. He gave it to the religion of the time a lot. Like, he's like, you guys are way off. Like, way off. So that's what I started reading his teachings and writings, and I was like, whoa, this guy is a rebel. He tells it like it is. He doesn't mince words. He doesn't say, well, maybe, or if, or whatever. It's this and it's that. And you are like this and you're like that because of this. And I really appreciated that straightforwardness. And he had a lot of the same frustrations that most people do with organized religion, for the same reasons. And he gave it to them for the same reasons too. So here's the authority, the one that they're claiming to worship, coming, and they're in the face of it, and he's telling them that's not the way it's done. This is it. So anyways, if you ever want to look into it on your own without taking what other people say, just yourself, never take what other people tell you it is and learn for yourself. My advice, anyways, my suggestion. The original censorship or fact checkers control the narrative, confuse the masses, 100%. And for sure, a lot of the events that are happening now, you could use the term biblical for, that we're heading into. And again, that was all foretold. By now, I've learned my great, how many great grandfathers were, Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and Isaiah and King David and all of these people that really did exist. And I've read what they've written, and it really spoke to me when I was on this journey. And later to find out that I'll go back in genealogy and they are literally my grandfathers, right? Literally. And so there is a connection there, a real connection. It's not just hocus pocus. It's not smoke and mirrors, although people have made it into that. Let's look at the difference between it. It's almost like YouTube itself, right? If you were to do a search of YouTube, you get a lot of crap. But you can find real things there as well. So for me to say YouTube is all crap, you can't really say that. You can't say Facebook's all crap or anything you find on Facebook. Even though there are people out there manipulating it, you can still find the things you're looking for. That's all I'm saying. Well, I've said more than that anyways, right? Good morning, Miles. Just means the pilots had a planned day off. Oh, if it's sunny out. Yeah, for sure. Now, there's probably millions of comments here. I'm probably way behind by this point. But thank you very much, everybody, for, I guess, indulging me a little bit today. But you started it, I think. I think you guys started this conversation. Good morning, everyone. Have a wonderful day. That's Denise Gates. Sudbury, the most sun hours in all Canada at one time. We had the most sun hours in all of Canada at one time. Was that last weekend or recent weekend when we just had sun? I can't see that as an ongoing statistic, that's for sure. So here's Belinda recommending Alex Collier, a very interesting listen to on his videos. So thank you again, guys, for sharing this. It makes it a more robust conversation for sure. Yeah, and people are looking at their phones a lot these days and not able to notice all kinds of things. Oh, I didn't know that. So Barney's Bargain Barn on the island is closing down for the next 2 months. That would be big news for a lot of people listening to this. I know that. I know a lot of people who frequent there and get different things for free or for cheap or whatever. I didn't know they were closing down for 2 months. So I'm just now going to just share your comments here and just look a little bit at and good morning, Brian. If there's some people joining us, I want to give a good morning shout out. Sarah as well. Good morning. Thanks for being on. And we're having a pretty deep conversation this morning. Not one that I expected for sure, but thanks everyone. It's a safe place to have a conversation like that. Let's put it that way, I think. I hope you feel the same. And good morning, Liette from Collingwood. And Tina, first time I've seen you on. You might have been on before. Well, it does say Sudbury News on your video. They are not allowing news on Facebook, so expect the bots to kick you off. I 100% agree on that one for sure. Thanks for being with us this morning, Tina. I'm surprised we weren't in the first place. When they mentioned all of that Bill C-11, Bill C-18, why were we still here? I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe because we're not mainstream, I think. I don't know. But they did say anyone who even talks about news would be off the air, so to speak. So yeah, so many comments coming in, guys. Whoa, it's a busy day for comments. So, okay, I'll do my very best here to get everything up on the screen as we promise to do each and every day. Try to read as many as I can and then get the rest up on the screen. Oh my. Oh my. Wow. Okay. So, stories to start your day from Sudbury.com just to see what's going on here. And if we look at anything, need to talk about the cyber hack. Laurentians considering semester changes. We talked about that yesterday. There's an anti-human trafficking conference focusing on prevention. When? So that was approximately 250 Greater Sudbury area professionals came together on Friday to attend the Human Trafficking Prevention Through Connection Conference at the Steels Workers Hall. That's interesting. I definitely want to get more on that. We've talked about that quite a bit on the show, and it is something that happens even in our city, even in our cities in Northern Ontario too, right? So they're warning us, if you will, that bears might be waking up sooner than later because of the mild spring and mild winter that we've had. So pay attention to that and make sure you're not putting out too much garbage for the bears. Peter is on this morning. Good morning, Pierre. Some schools teach media literacy and critical thinking. What are your sources? I had Encyclopedia Britannica. Yeah, nowadays Wikipedia suffices for that, or TikTok, I would think, right? And Linda, good morning from River Valley. Lots of rain going on there. Good morning, Linda. Thanks for being with us. Quite a few new people being on, and so I welcome you. And again, if this is your first show, it's not like this usually. Usually we're kind of a little bit more, we spend a little bit of time talking about stuff that most people don't talk about, but then we also talk about, just like we're talking about now, some local news stories, and then a little bit of a deep dive. And this week, starting Friday last week, we've been looking at the state of our skies and what's going on, and trying to make some sense of, when you're driving around and you're looking up, and what's all this jet spray doing in our skies? And most people don't know much about it. So why is that? What's going on? Right? And David Graham, good morning, everybody. Thanks for being on, David. And there's quite a few new people I don't see all the time on the show this morning. So welcome and good morning. And hopefully, our little bit of a deep dive will be somewhat educational. We're just going to continue on with what we've been looking at here. It's a documentary called The Dimming, or The Dimming of the Sun, basically. It's a global initiative through each country's military to dim the effects of the sun, as they say, in an effort to cool down the planet. It's been going on for many, 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 many years. You've noticed it in your skies. So some of the images you'll see in this particular documentary are things you're familiar with seeing. So it's trying to make some sense of it. And Brian says 5G towers went up during the lockdowns. True. Behind my house, the first day we were locked down, I went to bed and woke up and there was a tower back there. Never even heard a thing overnight. It went up literally overnight on Valet property. We used to live in Coppercliff, and it was right behind our house. And I look out my window in the morning and I'm like, there's a huge tower back there. How did that get up there? And it's like, there's towers. I'm noticing towers all over the city I haven't noticed before. And then start learning, well, those are the 5G towers that went up. And just before the pandemic, it was in the news about Huawei getting the contract to do our 5G network across Canada. And that was controversial at the time, because it's a Chinese company. China will know everything about Canada because they're going to control the whole wireless network around Canada. Pandemic hits, never heard a thing after that. I don't know if Huawei got the contract. We don't even know who got the contract to put up our 5G network around Canada. So I guess we got focused on other things at the time, and that, I guess, went by the wayside. And that's the thing that's going on these days, is there's so many things happening that you can't concentrate on one thing. We're being bombarded with everything at every angle to kind of just almost just make you so tired to just give up paying attention to anything that's going on around us, which is, if it's not by design, it's an interesting time to live in, just by accident, if that's the way that's going on. But anyways, we'll continue with a little bit of our geoengineeringwatch.org documentary on geoengineering in our skies.
Complete contradiction to geoengineering using wartime exemptions to not be cited through the EPA. This is a huge waste. Whether they're peacetime or wartime, to see how much money is spent to reduce hazards, again, that affect human health and impact the environment. It's a complete contradiction to geoengineering using wartime exemptions to not be cited through the EPA. This is a huge waste. This is fraud and waste from the U.S. government. And that this is allowed to go on, to me, is unbelievable.
I think it's one of the most dangerous, diabolical things that has ever happened to us. It's the most dangerous thing short of a nuclear cataclysm. So I take it very, very seriously, and will do everything I can to try and expose the problem and encourage people to do likewise.
Well, when I was growing up, I was really a fan of Kurt Vonnegut, and Kurt wrote some remarkable works. And I later learned that most of the fodder for that work came from the work of his brother, Bernard Vonnegut, who was a scientist at GE under Irving Langmuir, the lead scientist there. That work was focused on the production of ice crystals at elevated temperature using a compound called silver iodide.
I would like to take you into the laboratory and show you a few of the experiments that led us to our outdoor experiments in converting clouds into snow. These are some which I photographed that were formed in the laboratory. This is a picture of the first cloud that we seeded back last November. Putting dry ice from a small dispenser in the bottom of the plane, under many conditions, of course, full-fledged snowstorms will be produced in this way. Nature at last has permitted to do a little something about the weather.
These were something that scientists had worked on, developed through the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, and were likely being deployed even today. The research done by Vonnegut and Langmuir coincided with changes in our sky. As these programs, or at least this type of research, increased, the skies started to change. My first real observation of those changes and real awareness of it came, I was looking up and saw patterned skies of these trails that were being laid out by planes, then developing into confluent layers that would drift perhaps hundreds of miles, changes the weather, changes the temperature around you. Also, the light intensity and the quality of light was changing. It was funny that there was not really a lot of published literature on this material. There had been some governmental reports that I had dug into. There was some evidence that this type of research was being conducted. And in fact, there was a presentation that was given where Dane Wigginton asked some questions about the materials that they were discussing and their possible role in weather modification programs.
Numerous air quality studies, including from CARB, California Air Quality Resource Board, have named submicron-sized particulates as being particularly harmful for human respiration. Through all the discussions today, I have not heard any mention of this fallout, and has this been studied, and also the effects of a highly reactive metal like aluminum on toxifying soils and waters?
The question is, what would be the effects of these materials on human health if they came down into the stratosphere? In particular, small particles of aluminum. In our climate model, we looked at how much additional acid rain, acid snow you would get from the sulfur coming out of the stratosphere if you did it at a rate of 5 megatons per year or 10 megatons per year of sulfate. And it turns out that amount is so much smaller than what humans put into the troposphere on an annual basis by burning fossil fuels as a byproduct, that even even in pristine areas, the soil would have a buffering capacity and it wouldn't be harmful.
So the collaborators of mine working on the aerosol scheme are actually folks from Carnegie Mellon who focused on human health impacts. And while we haven't published it, that was the very first thing we did, was do the order of magnitude calculation in the federal pencil paper, but with an expert on human health impacts about whether there could be an issue. And the answer is no, clear-cut no. So for the numbers of particles running in the stratosphere are so tiny compared to the loadings on human health. There are other things that worry me a lot, like the rain on these particles into the upper troposphere, where they might affect high clouds. And for aluminum or other particles, there are a lot of toxicological things that need to get looked at seriously. But if you're just thinking about the sheer number of particles and the human health impact of small particles, the answer is, well, we haven't published it. That was the first thing we looked at with some of the leading experts who do epidemiological research on human health impacts, and it's not even close to being an issue.
So 10 megatons of aluminum dumped into the atmosphere will have no human health impact.
So let me be more careful here. We're to separate out the toxicological, so the aluminum we've only begun to research and publish nothing. The question I was asking was purely about particle number density. So what we did is we said, we looked at some global estimates now we have of aerosol, global estimates that were built for epidemiological purposes of the global loading of aerosols in terms of health impacts. And we said if we added on top of that what we're doing from the stratospheric aerosols, could it have any impact? And the answer is that was totally irrelevant. But that was just on particle number. We haven't done anything serious on alumina, and so there could be something terrible that we'll find tomorrow we haven't looked at.
So after I saw that footage, I contacted Dane, and I started asking him some questions myself because I was interested in what he knew already. I mean, he was very forthcoming with all types of information. I realized that he had published a lot of material online, and I started perusing that material and found that, you know, he was digging at something where there was, again, a lack of available scientific evidence, and that's where I became quite interested in contributing in any way that I could. I then, working further with Dane, and with great thanks to our contributors, was able to take a number of flights where we could sample through these condensation trails or these confluent layers that had been laid out earlier in the day. So on the first sampling mission, we started at the Baltimore-Washington International Airport. The University of Maryland has a twin-engine Cessna that is a flying laboratory. It has a sampling nozzle at the front of the plane that collects air samples prior to any contact with the plane or the engines or anything behind. Those samples are then taken through a tube, pass through a filter cassette, and these filters are glass fiber filters that are pretty large pore space filters that do effectively capture ground pollution. So PM 2.5, those particle sizes are 2.5 microns, and they've done a really good job of it. But it's not really the proper equipment to completely evaluate the number of particles that might be smaller than that. And we're talking 10 to 100 times smaller than the PM 2.5 particles. But those do capture some of them. And we flew in an air-controlled zone and basically flew big circles trying to get to altitude, but the control towers wouldn't actually allow us to reach the altitude that we needed. They basically want you to pass through that zone. The second flight that we conducted was flown from BWI to Albany International Airport.
All right, we're just in pre-flight here. This morning we observed emissions from several planes, several high-altitude planes, flying between 25 and some up to 40,000 feet. And the trails that were left behind these planes spread out into a confluent layer. And the low angle of the sun in the morning allowed for us to observe the polarizing effects of those particles using simple polarizing lenses.
We could see these obvious patterns that were being laid out in the sky. We were really thankful for the opportunity to be able to get up to altitude, that we could observe these materials and sample that cloud layer. Our intention was to do a point-to-point sampling mission where we could actually reach altitudes, approaching 20,000 feet.
Now, tomorrow when we come back, we'll look at the results from that particular flight. And I'm not sure what just happened there, but anyways, here's what it is. So, yeah, we'll look at the examples from the samples they took when they went up and what they found. So thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for commenting. It was an interesting show. Kept me on my toes, that's for sure. Lots to think about and lots to discuss. So much going on in our world today. So much going to be happening. We can see we're in a bit of a transitional point. And so we're going to need, we're going to need all the people like we have here as a community to make sense of things that are going on and help one another. And community is where it's at, right? And wherever you can have community, and we have a little community happening here. Not only just the city of Greater Sudbury is a community, but we have communities within communities. And so I feel this is a great community. So thank you very much, everyone, for being on today. Your comments are very appreciated. The conversation is very rich and enlightening. And so thank you so much, everyone. And we'll be back, God willing, same time, same place tomorrow on Facebook and YouTube, and hopefully CKLU as they get their internet back up and running. So have a safe and wonderful Tuesday, everyone. And make sure to check out the weather and drive accordingly and dress accordingly, because it might be interesting. So we'll see you tomorrow, everyone. Have a great one. Ciao.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.